The warning signs. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concordat fell silent as Elder Jorath of the Vindari slowly made his way to the central platform. His ancient form, wrapped in iridescent robes that seemed to capture starlight, moved with deliberate care. The Vindari were the oldest known species in the galaxy, beings who had achieved space travel when most other sentient races were still figuring out how to make fire. When a Vindari spoke, especially one as ancient as Elder Jorath, the galaxy listened. "I come before this council with a warning." Jorath's voice resonated through the chamber, his four eyes glowing with an intensity that made even the battle-hardened Cryx representatives shift uncomfortably. The humans have broken their isolation. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Humans had been quarantined to their solar system for nearly a century after the Proxima Centauri incident, an event that most species preferred not to discuss openly. "Let them stay in their corner of the galaxy," called out Ambassador Vex of the Herodrim Collective, his tentacles waving dismissively. "They pose no threat to our established order." Elder Jorath's membrane-like eyelids flickered in what those familiar with Vindari expressions recognized as profound concern. "You misunderstand," he continued. "I do not warn you of human expansion. I warn you of human retribution." The holographic displays throughout the chamber flickered as Jorath interfaced with the central eye. Star charts materialized, highlighting a sector near the Perseus Arm, where 3 Concordat outposts had gone silent in the past solar month. "The outposts were investigating the disappearance of human colonies," explained Jorath. "Colonies that, according to our treaties, should not have existed." The chamber erupted in agitated conversation. High Marshal Kryn of the Tereki Imperium slammed his armored fist against the podium. "Impossible. Our blockade has been impenetrable. No human vessels have breached the quarantine zone in decades." Jorath's expression remained impassive. "And yet human settlements thrive beyond your blockade. Settlements that have now vanished, along with your investigators." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the chamber. If humans had established colonies beyond the quarantine, it meant the Concordat's surveillance had failed. If those colonies were now missing, it meant something, or someone, had taken action against them. "What does this have to do with retribution?" asked the crystalline representative of the Ayari confluence, her voice chiming like delicate bells. "Everything," Jorath replied. "Because the humans believe we are responsible." Captain Maya Chen stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, watching the massive Concordat station grow larger against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. After a century of isolation, humanity was finally reaching out to the galactic community again, officially this time. "Status report, Lieutenant Okafor," she said, not turning from the viewport. "All systems nominal, Captain," came the crisp reply. "The Concordat has granted us docking permission, though their communication protocols seem tense." Chen nodded slightly. "They should be. We're the bogeyman they've been telling scary stories about for the past 100 years." The Olive Branch was Earth's first official contact vessel since the quarantine. Its mission was simple: establish diplomatic relations and investigate the disappearance of the unofficial human settlements that had somehow managed to exist beyond the blockade. What Earth's Central Command hadn't told the Concordat was that the Olive Branch was merely the visible part of humanity's return to galactic affairs. Behind the scenes, something much larger was unfolding. Operation Lighthouse, the systematic search for the missing colonists. "Receiving incoming transmission from the station," announced Communications Officer Park. "They're requesting our delegation manifest." "Send them the approved list," Chen replied. "And make sure our special equipment remains classified." The special equipment included quantum entanglement communicators that allowed instantaneous contact with Earth regardless of distance, technology that had been developed during the century of isolation and was still unknown to the Concordat species. As the Olive Branch docked with the massive station, Chen straightened her uniform and prepared to face creatures that most humans had only seen in historical records. The airlock cycled, and she led her delegation of 6 officers into the cavernous docking bay, where representatives of a dozen species waited in formal array. At their center stood a tall, angular being with chitinous armor, a Taraki, based on Chen's briefings, flanked by the multi-limbed forms of what appeared to be Herodrim officials. "Captain Chen of Earth," the Taraki announced, mandibles clicking between words. "I am High Marshal Kren. The Concordat grants you temporary diplomatic status while we discuss the situation." Chen noted the careful choice of words. Not welcome, not greetings, just acknowledgement, and the clear implication that their stay would be brief. "High Marshal," she replied with a formal bow. "Earth thanks you for this opportunity to re-establish relations and discuss matters of mutual concern." "Follow me," Kren said abruptly. "The Council is waiting." As they moved through the station's vast corridors, Chen activated the subdermal sensor implanted in her wrist, a passive scanner that recorded the station's layout, security positions, and technological capabilities. Standard procedure for diplomatic missions, especially to potentially hostile territories. The Grand Council chamber was a hemisphere of transparent material that offered a breathtaking view of the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species occupied tiered seating around a central platform, where an ancient being draped in shimmering robes waited patiently. "A Vindari," whispered Lieutenant Okafor. "I thought they rarely left their homeworlds." "Elder Jorath has graced us with his presence given the gravity of the situation," explained Kren, overhearing the comment with his enhanced auditory senses. Chen approached the platform and offered the traditional Vindari greeting. Right hand open at chest level, left hand open at waist level, symbolizing truth above and peace below. "Captain Chen," Elder Jorath acknowledged, his voice carrying a harmonic quality that seemed to resonate in Chen's bones. "Your arrival is timely, if not entirely unexpected." "I come seeking answers, Elder," Chen replied. 23 human settlements have gone silent. Over 30,000 souls missing. We believe them lost to natural disaster until we detected Concordat ships in the vicinity before communications ceased. A ripple of discomfort moved through the assembly. Jorath's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of contemplation among his kind. The Concordat investigative vessels were responding to the discovery of unauthorized human presence beyond the quarantine zone, explained a Herodrim representative. Before they could complete their assessment, all contact was lost with both the human settlements and our ships. "Convenient," Chen said, unable to keep a hint of bitterness from her voice. "What Ambassador Vex means," interjected Jorath, "is that the Concordat is not responsible for the disappearances. Something else hunts in the darkness between stars, Captain. Something that has been watching us all." Before Chen could request clarification, alarm sirens blared throughout the station. The massive viewports polarized as defense systems activated automatically. "Multiple unidentified vessels have entered the system," announced a station eye. "They match no known configuration." Holographic displays showed a dozen sleek, obsidian ships moving with impossible precision toward the station. They resembled no design Shen had ever seen, neither human nor belonging to any known Concordat species. "The station is being targeted," reported a Taraki officer, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. High Marshal Kren turned to Chen, his compound eyes reflecting the emergency lights. "Is this your doing? A human trick?" "No," Chen replied honestly. "Those aren't our ships." The first impacts shook the station before defensive shields fully deployed. The council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives rushed toward emergency shelters. "Captain Chen," Elder Jorath said urgently, moving with surprising speed for his apparent age. "You must come with me. There is much you need to know, truths that have been hidden for centuries." Chen hesitated, looking back at her team who were already being surrounded by Concordat security forces. "Your people will be safer as diplomatic hostages than with you," Jorath said, reading her concern. "The Concordat fears you, but they will not harm official representatives without cause." Another impact rocked the station. Decision time. Lieutenant Okafor, maintain Protocol Delta, Chen ordered. I'll re-establish contact when possible. As Okafor nodded in understanding, Chen followed Elder Jorath through a hidden passage that appeared in the chamber wall. The ancient being moved with urgency through narrow corridors that seemed designed for emergency evacuation. The Vindari have observed humanity since your species first looked to the stars with wonder, Jorath explained as they hurried toward what appeared to be a private docking bay. What I am about to show you has been kept secret from both humans and the Concordat for generations. A small, elegant vessel awaited them, clearly a Vindari design, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Where are we going? Chen asked as they boarded. To the Vindari archives, Jorath replied, his hands dancing over living controls that responded to his touch. To show you why my people have always feared human retribution, and why that fear may now be justified. As the vessel detached and accelerated away from the embattled station, Chen activated her quantum communicator. Operation Lighthouse needed to be updated. The situation had just become infinitely more complex. Back on the station, Lieutenant Okafor and the human delegation were being escorted to secure quarters under heavy guard when the main assault began. The unknown vessels deployed smaller craft that breached the station's outer defenses with terrifying efficiency. The last transmission from the station, captured by the Vindari vessel's sensors as it jumped to FTL, was a distress call that would echo across Concordat space. Unknown hostiles boarding. They appear to be human, but not human. Requesting immediate. The transmission ended in static. Admiral Helena Vostok stood before the massive tactical display in Earth's Central Command, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic representation of known space. Red markers indicated the last known locations of the missing colonies. Yellow markers showed the positions of Earth's reconnaissance vessels, and a single blue marker represented the olive branch, now out of contact for 72 hours. Status report, she demanded. Operation Lighthouse has commenced Phase 2, reported Strategic Director Paddle. Stealth vessels have been deployed to all affected sectors. No sign of the missing colonists or Captain Chen's delegation. Vostok nodded grimly. A century of isolation had not been wasted. While the Concordat believed humans had been licking their wounds behind the blockade, Earth had been preparing, developing technologies and capabilities that would have been impossible without the focused determination that came from perceived betrayal. And the special assets? She asked. The Nemesis fleet is on standby, Paddle replied, awaiting your command. Vostok studied the display. The Nemesis project represented the pinnacle of human military advancement, ships that combined conventional technology with something the scientists called perception engineering. They could appear as anything or nothing at all to enemy sensors. We're missing something, Vostok murmured. The Concordat claims innocence. Chen's last report mentioned unknown vessels attacking the station, and now we have silence. Perhaps it's time to deploy the Nemesis fleet, suggested Patel. Show the Concordat what a century of human innovation looks like. Vostok shook her head slowly. Not yet. If the Concordat isn't responsible, we'd be starting a war with the wrong enemy. The command center doors hissed open, admitting a young officer who moved with urgent purpose. Admiral, the officer said, we've received a transmission via quantum channel. It's from Captain Chen. The room fell silent. Quantum communications were supposed to be untraceable, known only to Earth. On screen, Vostok ordered. Chen's face appeared, the image occasionally distorting but remarkably clear given the presumed distance. Admiral, Chen began, I'm aboard a Vindari vessel headed for their ancestral archives. The diplomatic station was attacked by unknown forces. The Concordat believes we're responsible, but Elder Jorath claims another party is manipulating events. Can you trust this Vindari? Vostok asked. Uncertain, Chen replied. But he's shown me data that suggests the colony disappearances follow a pattern dating back centuries, long before our quarantine. The Vindari have been tracking similar incidents across multiple species. Vostok leaned forward. What are you saying, Captain? I'm saying someone wants war between humans and the Concordat. Chen's image flickered. Someone who's been systematically eliminating isolated colonies and making it look like the work of either human or Concordat forces, depending on the target. To what end? Patil asked. Unknown, Chen admitted, but the Vindari archives may hold answers. Elder Jorath claims his people have observed this pattern before, in previous galactic cycles. Previous cycles? Vostok echoed. Admiral. Chen's expression grew grave. The Vindari believe that advanced civilizations rise and fall in predictable patterns across cosmic time. They've witnessed multiple species achieve dominance, only to disappear or decline. They believe humans are different somehow, unpredictable. That's why they've always feared human retribution, because we don't follow the patterns they've observed for millions of years. The implications were staggering. If Chen's information was accurate, the galaxy's history was far more complex than Earth had ever imagined. Maintain your course to these archives, Vostok ordered. Discover what you can. We'll hold the Nemesis fleet in reserve, but I'm dispatching Commander Abara and the Prometheus to your coordinates as backup. Understood, Admiral. Chen out. As the transmission ended, Vostok turned to address her command staff. Prepare for all contingencies, she ordered. If someone is trying to instigate war between humanity and the Concordat, we need to understand why. And if these disappearances are part of a larger pattern, as the Vindari suggest, we may be facing a threat greater than any our species has encountered. The command center erupted into focused activity. After a century of isolation, humanity was about to make its presence known to the galaxy once more, not as conquerors, but as investigators of a mystery that spanned millennia. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, watching with ancient patience, the true enemy waited. The reckoning. Commander Ibrahima Abara stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, Earth's most advanced warship disguised as a scientific vessel. Its true capabilities were hidden beneath layers of misdirection, sensor-absorbing materials, modular weapon systems that could be deployed or concealed in moments, and an experimental drive system that left virtually no energy signature. Report, he ordered, dark eyes fixed on the main view screen where the Vindari homeworld hung like a jewel against the void, a planet of swirling azure clouds and landmasses that seemed to pulse with life even from orbit. No sign of Captain Chen's vessel, reported Lieutenant Commander Reyes, but we're detecting substantial Concordat fleet activity in the outer system. At least 7 capital ships on approach vectors. Abara's expression remained impassive. They're looking for Chen too. Have they detected us? Negative, Commander. Stealth systems functioning at optimal capacity. Humanity had learned many lessons during its century of isolation. Chief among them, never again would Earth be technologically outmatched. The Prometheus represented the pinnacle of that philosophy, a warship that could stand against anything in the Concordat fleet while appearing to be nothing more than a civilian research vessel. Sir, called out Sensor Officer Quan, I'm detecting a quantum signature matching Captain Chen's communicator. It's coming from a facility on the far side of the largest continent. Not from orbit, Abara questioned. No, sir. Ground-based. And there's something else, unusual energy readings surrounding the facility. Nothing in our database matches the pattern. Abara considered his options. His mission was to extract Chen and her intelligence, not to engage the Concordat. But with their fleet approaching, diplomatic solutions seemed increasingly unlikely. Deploy reconnaissance drones, he ordered. Full stealth protocol. I want eyes on that facility before we commit to landing. As the drones launched silently from the Prometheus, Abara opened a secure channel to Earth Central Command. Admiral Vostok, this is Commander Abara. We've located a quantum signature matching Captain Chen's on the Vindari homeworld. Concordat forces are inbound. requesting permission to extract using all necessary means. The quantum entanglement communicator hummed softly as it transmitted his message across the vast distances to Earth. The response was almost immediate, one of the advantages of technology that ignored the limitations of light speed. "Permission granted, Commander," came Vostok's voice. "But be advised. Latest intelligence suggests the attacking forces at the Concordat station were using some form of biomimetic technology. They appeared human to sensors but showed non-human characteristics during combat. Proceed with extreme caution. Biomimetic technology. Artificial life forms designed to mimic specific species. The implications were disturbing. If someone possessed technology advanced enough to create convincing human replicas, they could potentially instigate conflict between any species." "Understood, Admiral." Abara out. The drone footage began streaming to the bridge displays. The Vindari facility was massive, a sprawling complex of crystalline structures that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being built upon it. At its center stood an imposing tower that pulsed with energy patterns that defied standard analysis. "Life signs?" Abara asked. "Numerous Vindari readings," Quan responded, "and 2 human signatures. One matches Captain Chen's biometric profile. The other is unknown." That was troubling. Chen's delegation had included 6 officers, yet only one additional human signature appeared on the scans. "Sir, Concordat vessels have entered orbit," Rise reported. "They're deploying landing craft toward the facility." Decision time. Abara had hoped to execute a quiet extraction, but circumstances no longer allowed for subtlety. "Battle stations," he ordered. "Deploy weapon systems and prepare for atmospheric entry. We're going in." The Prometheus transformed as it descended toward the Vindari world. Panels shifted, revealing weapon emplacements that had been concealed beneath the ship's skin. Propulsion systems reconfigured for atmospheric combat. What had appeared to be a scientific vessel now revealed its true nature, a warship of unparalleled capability. Concordat sensors detected the change immediately. Their landing craft altered course to intercept, weapons charging. "They've locked weapons on us," reported Tactical Officer Zhu. "Defensive measures only," Abara commanded. "We're not here to start a war." The Prometheus unleashed a barrage of countermeasures, not destructive weapons, but systems designed to confuse and disable rather than destroy. Electromagnetic pulses rippled across the Concordat vessels, temporarily disrupting their guidance systems. Aerosol dispersal units released clouds of nanomaterials that adhered to sensor arrays, effectively blinding them. "Landing zone secured," announced Reyes as the ship touched down approximately 2 kilometers from the Vindari facility. "Defensive perimeter established." Abara rose from his command chair. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes, you have the bridge. I'll lead the extraction team personally." Deep within the Vindari archives, Captain Maya Chen stood before a holographic display of staggering complexity. The living data structure pulsed and shifted as Elder Jorath guided her through millions of years of galactic history, a history very different from what humanity had been told. So the Proxima Centauri incident, the reason Earth was quarantined, was fabricated? Chen asked, struggling to process the implications. "Not fabricated," Jorath corrected gently. "Manipulated. The aggressive actions attributed to your species were carried out by biomimetic constructs designed to perfectly mimic human biology and behavior. The attack on the Concordat colony was meant to isolate humanity from galactic affairs." "Why? Who would do this?" Jorath's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "We call them the Shapers. They have existed since before even the Vindari achieved sentience. They operate across vast timescales, guiding the evolution of galactic civilization according to patterns only they fully understand." The holographic display shifted to show a repeating cycle, civilizations rising, establishing interstellar communities, and then either declining gradually or disappearing suddenly. "For millions of years, this pattern has held," Jorath continued. "The Shapers allowed technological species to develop, to spread among the stars, but never to advance beyond certain thresholds. Those who approach these boundaries suffer setbacks, like Earth's quarantine, Chen realized. Precisely. But humans are different. Your species adapts with unprecedented speed. Your technological development accelerates in isolation rather than stagnating. The Shapers recognized this trait early in your history and have taken extraordinary measures to contain it. A new element appeared in the display, a representation of human development compared to other species. Where others showed relatively steady progression, the human line spiked dramatically, especially during periods of adversity. You're saying we were quarantined because we learned too quickly? Chen asked incredulously. You were quarantined because you do not follow the pattern, Jorath corrected. All other species the Shapers have encountered can be predicted, controlled, guided. Humans cannot. Your responses to stimuli are chaotic. Where other species accept limitations, you challenge them. Where others surrender to superior force, you find alternative strategies. This unpredictability makes you dangerous to their grand design. Chen was about to respond when an alarm echoed through the archives. The living walls pulsed with warning patterns. Concordat forces have entered the atmosphere, Jorath announced, interfacing directly with the facility systems. And something else, a vessel of unfamiliar design. The holographic display shifted to show external views. Chen recognized the approaching ship immediately. That's one of ours, she said. The Prometheus. Earth must have sent it to extract me. Then we have little time, Jorath said urgently. You must understand the complete truth before you return to your people. The display changed again, showing what appeared to be a star map of the galaxy. Certain sectors glowed with an ominous red light. These are regions where the Shapers maintain direct control, worlds they have claimed for purposes unknown to us. For millennia, they have remained in these territories, content to influence rather than directly intervene in galactic affairs. But recently, they have become more aggressive. The missing colonies, both human and Concordat, represent a change in their strategy. They're taking people, Chen said, a chill running down her spine. Why? Study, experimentation, perhaps adaptation. Jorath's voice carried a note of genuine fear. The Vindari have observed this behavior only once before, over 10 million years ago. It preceded a period of devastating conflict that nearly extinguished all advanced life in the galaxy. The archives trembled as weapons fire impacted somewhere above them. Time was running out. What can we do? Chen asked. Unite, Jorath said simply. The Concordat fears humanity because the Shapers have engineered that fear. You must break this cycle. Reveal the truth. Humans and the Concordat species together might stand against the Shapers. Divided, we will fall as countless civilizations have fallen before. A section of the archive wall dissolved, revealing a passageway. Standing there, weapon ready, was Commander Abara. Captain Chen, he said with evident relief. We need to move. Concordat forces have breached the outer perimeter. Chen turned to Jorath. Come with us. Tell your story to Earth directly. The ancient being hesitated. My place is here, with the archives. But I can give you this. His slender fingers touched a crystalline device embedded in the holographic control panel. It detached, glowing softly. All the evidence I've shown you, and more. Proof of the Shapers' existence and their manipulation of both human and Concordat history. Chen accepted the device, securing it in her uniform pocket. We'll expose the truth. I promise. Go, Jorath urged. The archives will protect me. As if in response to his words, the living walls of the facility began to shift, creating barriers and defensive positions. Chen realized the entire structure was responding to Jorath's will, a symbiotic relationship between the ancient Vindari and their repository of knowledge. The extraction team moved with practiced efficiency through the crystalline corridors of the Vindari facility. Abara's forces had established a secure route to the Prometheus, but Concordat troops were closing in from multiple directions. Tell me you have a plan that doesn't involve shooting our way through a Concordat assault team, Chen said as they paused at an intersection. Actually, I do, Abara replied, but you're not going to like it. He activated his tactical display, showing the position of the Prometheus and the surrounding Concordat forces. We're going to surrender, he stated. That's a terrible plan, Chen responded immediately. Not to the Concordat, Abara clarified. To the Vindari, publicly and dramatically. Understanding dawned on Chen's face. You want to force a three-way diplomatic situation. Exactly. The Concordat can't attack us if we're under Vindari protection without triggering an interspecies incident. It buys us time to present your evidence and potentially turn the Concordat from enemies to allies. It was risky, but given the alternatives, it might be their best option. The true enemy, these shapers that Jorath had described, wanted conflict between humans and the Concordat. The most effective counter was to deny them that conflict. Do it, Chen decided. Abara activated a broad-spectrum communication channel, broadcasting on frequencies he knew the Concordat forces would monitor. Attention Vindari authorities and Concordat forces. This is Commander Ibrahima Abara of Earth Vessel Prometheus. We formally request diplomatic sanctuary under Article 7 of the Ancient Species Protection Accord. The Ancient Species Protection Accord was one of the oldest diplomatic agreements in the galaxy, a recognition that species like the Vindari represented irreplaceable repositories of knowledge and culture. Under its provisions, even enemies could claim sanctuary if their actions served to protect an ancient species from harm. The response was immediate. Concordat communication channels exploded with confused and angry transmissions. But more importantly, the Vindari facility itself responded. Crystalline growths extended from the walls, forming a protective canopy over Chen, Abara, and the extraction team. A holographic projection of Elder Jorath appeared before them. Sanctuary granted, the ancient being announced, his voice broadcasting across all channels. By authority of the Vindari Collective, Earth representatives are hereby placed under our protection. All hostile actions against them will be considered violations of the Accord. The Concordat forces halted their advance, caught in a diplomatic bind. Attacking now would violate one of the most sacred agreements in galactic law. Well played, Chen murmured to Abara. Now we need to present our evidence before they find a loophole. Agreed. Let's move to the central chamber. If we're going to change the course of galactic politics, we might as well have the right stage. The grand amphitheater at the heart of the Vindari archives hummed with tension. Representatives from Earth and the Concordat sat on opposite sides, separated by elaborate crystalline barriers that would prevent violence while allowing communication. Elder Jorath presided from a raised platform, his ancient form seeming to glow with internal light. Captain Chen stood at the center, the crystalline data device from Jorath connected to the amphitheater's holographic systems. What I am about to show you, she began, will challenge everything both humans and the Concordat believe about our shared history. It will reveal manipulations spanning centuries, engineered by an entity that has shaped galactic civilization for millions of years. The holographic display activated, filling the chamber with images and data from the Vindari archives. Chen methodically presented the evidence of the Shaper's existence, their pattern of interference, their role in the Proxima Centauri incident, and their recent campaign of colony abductions. High Marshal Kren of the Taraki, leading the Concordat delegation, watched with growing understanding and horror. If what you claim is true, he said when Chen concluded, then both our peoples have been pawns in a game beyond our comprehension. Not pawns, Chen corrected. Threats. The Shapers fear what we might become if united. That's why they've worked so diligently to keep us at each other's throats. Elder Jorath rose, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives. For millennia, the Vindari have observed but not interfered, he stated. We believe this was wisdom. I now recognize it as cowardice. The pattern must be broken. The cycle must end. A new presence entered the amphitheater. Admiral Vostok, her image projected via quantum entanglement from Earth Central Command. "The Earth Alliance has authorized me to offer the following," she announced. "Full disclosure of all technologies developed during our isolation, joint military operations to recover the missing colonists, and a formal end to all hostilities between Earth and the Concordat." Kren's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound that Chen now recognized as thoughtful consideration rather than aggression. "The Concordat will require verification of these claims," he said finally. "But if confirmed, we face a common enemy far greater than our differences. I am authorized to accept your proposal in principle, pending further investigation." Chen felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was a beginning. "There is one more thing you should know," Jorath said, his voice suddenly grave. "The Shapers will not accept this alliance. They will take direct action to prevent it." As if summoned by his words, the amphitheater's security systems blared warnings. Above the Vindari world, sensors detected multiple objects emerging from what appeared to be folded space, technology far beyond anything known to Earth or the Concordat. The Shaper vessels had arrived. "It appears," Commander Ibarra said with grim humor, "that we're about to test our new alliance rather sooner than expected." High Marshal Kren rose to his full height, mandibles extending in the Tareki gesture of battle readiness. "Then let us show these Shapers the error of their manipulation," he declared. Together, as Earth and Concordat forces rushed to defensive positions, Captain Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Shapers had spent centuries keeping humans and the Concordat apart, fearing what they might accomplish together. They were about to find out exactly why that fear was justified. The oldest species in the galaxy had warned others about human vengeance. Now that vengeance would be joined with the might of the Concordat, a combination that even the ancient manipulators could not have predicted. The galaxy would never be the same again.